Wait, 2 more minutes. We do have to wait till 7, so sorry. The formalities. What's that? Well, he missed it. It was 6:30 workshop.
I thought it was 6:45.
So that,
I walked in just before you.
yeah, sorry, guys. Which clock do I look at? They're all different.
Well, this is-
2 minutes.
It's 6:58 right now, so
Okay.
it's actually good right now.
Good.
Clock is
I can go move that one.
No, it looks all right.
All right, Bob, when we hit 7, we are ready to go.
Thank you, Heather.
The one is 2 minutes.
It's. Noise. Be nice. One more minute.
The anticipation is killing me.
It is tense in here.
All right, everybody do 10 jumping jacks. That one's-
It will be done.
And we'd have to call it EMS.
When you say done, what do you mean, dead?
Dead.
Yeah.
That's advocating for AED use,
What's it?
advocating for the AED use.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to test it. We test it.
All right,
And then 4, 3, 2, 1.
done. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. For March 1st, it's 7 o'clock, so we're getting started. I'd like to start out with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next thing I'll talk about is the emergency exits. If anything were to happen, obviously 2 exits here. There's 2 on the other side of the atrium and on either side of the boardroom. There's easy exits to get out of if anything happens. So far, that's never happened. Not too worried about it, but it's there. Next, I'll take a roll call. All those present say aye. Robert Peckham, aye. Beth Mossworth,
Aye.
John Miglerini,
Aye.
Christian Chamberlain,
Aye.
Heather Robinson is not here today. Tim Harrington,
Present.
Aaron Lehman.
Aye.
Roll call. Could I get a motion for the minutes for February?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the minutes for the February 1st meeting.
Second.
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, we have just one set of applications, starting with 2023-001 through 007. If the representative or representatives would step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, I would appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Howard Jenislaw from the law firm Gibbons PC, 1 Pennsylvania Plaza, New York, New York, on behalf of the applicant Floor and Decor Outlets of America. With me is Julie Starzinski on the right, Director of Construction and Design from Floor and Decor, and Tyler Neubauer from Atlas Sign.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We usually like to start out and just ask for a little bit of an overview for what you're planning to do. Even though we see the notes, we'd like to have it on the record. So if you could tell us a little bit about this project, what we're expecting to see, size, scope, just so we get a full feel for this.
Absolutely. So by way of background, you've probably seen that the former Macy's isn't there anymore.
Yes.
We're already in construction. We previously had a special permit from the town board and site plan approval from the planning board. The proposed building is approximately 65,000 square feet. And for any of you who don't know Floor and Decor, they are a hard surface retailer. So wood, tile, stone, related tools, accessories, design services. That's their principal business. They do not yet have any stores in Western New York. This will be one of their first. There's one currently in development in Cheektowaga. The next closest store to here is Warrensville Heights, Ohio, which is the Cleveland area. And within New York State, the closest stores would be on Long Island. So this is definitely a new area for Floor and Decor. They're very excited to be expanding into Western New York. And the proposal here for the zoning board is solely focused on signs. We are proposing, it's a freestanding building. And so there are multiple frontages that are visible to Highland Drive, to the parking lot. And so we're proposing a Floor and Decor identification sign on each of those three sides. We're proposing a customer pickup sign because since the products that Floor and Decor sells are large and heavy, they typically need to be loaded into the customer vehicle with a forklift. Typically, it's a pickup truck or a Sprinter van, something like that. So the customer pickup area is marked. We typically consider that to be a single sign, but in discussions with the building department before we submitted the application, since it's technically two separate panels, they considered it to be two separate signs, each of which requires a separate variance. So that's how we end up seeking two variances for that sign as opposed to one. Excuse me.
Sure.
We also are proposing on the front the three signs that describe the principal items that Floor and Decor sells: wood, tile, and stone. Part of the reason for that is being that they are new to the area. People may not be familiar with their product lines. Those signs are typical on Floor and Decor stores, but they're particularly important coming into new markets like this, where customers may not have familiarity with the brand and with the products that they sell.
Is the north face considered the front of the building?
Let me get my
And the pictures
directions.
on the wall here, if you,
Yeah, so the plan
North is front?
north
okay,
would be the front, correct? And so most of the signs are on the front. So the main signs, if you will, that identify Floor and Decor are S1, S6, and S7,
yes.
referring to drawing SP1. And then the signs that identify the wood, tile, stone, that's S2, S3, and S4, which are just channel letters across the front. The customer pickup sign, the one that's split in two, as I described before, is the S5A, S5B, and then the five I'm here signs in the customer pickup area, which are shaded in yellow, are labeled S11. Now, I heard during the work session, there was a question about how those should be counted, so I can shed a little bit of light on that. Before we submitted, I had some extensive discussions with the building department, Chris in particular, as to what required a variance, what required a permit. And his advice was that those signs should be counted toward the overall square footage, but not toward the total number of signs. So that's why it's presented that way in the application. If there's a better way or a different way that the board would prefer to handle it, that's certainly fine, but that's why it's presented the way it's presented. In terms of the proposal, that's basically the overview of what signs are proposed. I did want to comment a little bit about the statutory criteria. We did submit a written justification that goes through some detail. I won't go through that page by page, but just a few of the high points. We're in a shopping center, the Marketplace Mall. There are a number of existing retailers that have signage that in many respects is similar. Many of them have more signs than the two which are permitted by code. For example, I think the one that's probably closest to what we're proposing is Dave & Buster's, which has not only their own Dave & Buster's sign, but they also have what are signs which are similar to our wood, tile, stone signs that describe the services that they offer: eat, drink, play, and watch. I did submit some photographs in that written submission that describes what some of the other retailers in this area have. There's also Dick's Sporting Goods, 3 wall signs and 1 sign on the pylon. IndyCar Raceway, 2 wall signs and 1 sign panel on the pylon. J.C. Penney, 3 wall signs, and then I mentioned already Dave and Buster's. As far as what Macy's previously had, I had done some research on Google Earth, and I came to the same conclusion that Macy's in their final years had 3 wall signs. We did file a FOIL, and Heather produced some records in response to that request involving prior variances for just the Macy's. We didn't ask for the whole shopping center. And what we got was 2 variances that this board previously granted. One was for Sibley's in 1981
Yep.
to erect 2 building signs, each approximately 13 by 19, totaling nearly 500 square feet. And then in 1990, the board granted Kaufman's approval to erect 2 building mounted signs with a total area of roughly 467 square feet. We didn't, in response to that FOIL request, get anything specific to Macy's. So I don't know if they ever had variances, if the code permitted 3 signs at the time. The reason why we applied for, new variances, if you will, is basically for the reasons Mr. Black indicated, given that the building was being torn down and is now going to be a freestanding building as opposed to continuing to use the existing building in the mall. It wasn't entirely clear that those variances, although they do run with the land in perpetuity, were still applicable, given that the context in which the signs were installed was now going to be somewhat different. The orientation of the building is a little different. So we thought it cleaner to simply apply for new variances, and that's why we applied the way we did. In terms of the other statutory criteria, being, as I said, that this is a new entry to the market, there's not a lot of other feasible options other than signs. And as was indicated, this is a fairly large building. And the way the code is written, it talks about 4 square feet of signage, I believe it is, per linear foot, right? So based on our linear feet, we'd be entitled to about 1,051 square feet, just based on that calculation. But then there's also in the code an overall cap, which says no more than 250 square feet per parcel. And so that's where we don't comply. But just based on the linear frontage of the building, we actually are within what the code would otherwise permit. And so the code really doesn't distinguish, if you will, between large buildings like this and smaller buildings. It's the same 250 square foot cap that applies across the board. So it may seem substantial numerically, and numerically it is substantial, but viewed in context of what the code allows and in the context of what's around us, I think it's reasonable and consistent with what else you see out there in the center. And I think it's consistent with what's there. So that's kind of a general overview. We go through a little bit more of the criteria in our written submission. I don't know that I need to belabor that unless there's a specific question. I'd be happy to take your questions, as would Julie and Tyler.
I'm sure there's a few questions. Go ahead, Christian.
One quick question. When you mentioned the 2 previous variances, one for Sibley's way back in whenever that was.
1981.
81, and for Kaufman's. Now, when Kaufman's got their variance, was that in addition to the variance that was already in place for Sibley's? Or did they also do a refresh to start over for?
I don't know. if
It
would say
wasn't
this.
entirely clear.
Didn't say it.
And a lot of these old variance records, they're not nearly as detailed as a resolution that might be adopted today. So it was kind of hard to tell exactly, what the code allowed at the time and whether that was, I don't think it was an addition, but it wasn't really clear to me if there were previously 3, now they're coming in for 2. Why could they not rely on the prior variances? Were the sizes different or the locations different? That's
Yeah.
something that I wasn't really able to
Yeah,
get my arms
I
around.
just wasn't sure if it was that, because you said it was the first variance was what, 500 square feet, I think. in
The first
81?
variance was 13 by 19, which in my written submission, I said nearly 500 square feet. So it's probably high 400s.
I was just curious if the second when they went for the Coffins went for their variances, if it was an addition, that would pretty much be what you need
Yep.
now anyway. But if
True.
But we
that's-
also have a count issue.
But if there's
So
no,
there's a count and size is the problems that
right,
we're,
I
or not
understand that.
problems.
I'm just saying that I didn't know if there was already, like you said, the variances were, you can't tell back then and they're so old anyway, so.
Because it's a plaza, each
tenant is allowed one wall sign.
Mhm.
So the variance is.
Please grab a microphone. No one online can hear you. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I cut it off. I didn't want to, I apologize. So you're allowed one wall sign, so the variance should have been for a second wall sign for Sibley's or Kaufman's.
But either way,
Those-
we're overriding it. by
Right,
doing
but
them
those,
all.
those variants, so they had
It's
two already.
irrelevant.
That's why we're starting
That's
with the
fine.
third sign is your first variance. They already had
Right.
that in place.
I'm curious how those other variances, if they played into it or not, but if we're.
Yeah, I mean,
We're basically
Starting
starting
from
over.
scratch.
Starting from scratch.
That's
So
fine. That's.
I provided that for background and context. Basically, we're not necessarily relying on those for the reasons that were discussed earlier, but I thought it was interesting information to see what had been previously granted.
A little time capsule too.
Exactly.
The signs themselves, backlit, LED, illuminated or not, constant color or changing color, and what times during the day will they be illuminated?
So times of day, the store closes at 7 o'clock generally. I think 6 o'clock on Sunday, generally 7 o'clock other days. Signs typically go out within an hour or so of when the store closes. They're all illuminated signs other than the I'm here signs that mark the customer pickup locations. And Tyler, do you want to address to come to the microphone?
Yeah,
please?
please. And also announce your name and who you're from.
I think it's off. I think
Can I
you
go
need
to that one?
Turn it on.
Go
You
to
can
the
just
other one,
stand
yeah.
over here.
Okay, my name is Tyler Neubauer with Atlas Signs. To answer your question, they're facelit signs, not backlit, but and as he mentioned, they'd be on timers, so they'd be scheduled to be turned on, turned off based on the hours the store opens and or closes.
Facelit meaning that they have lights shining on them?
No, facelit meaning that
Oh.
I guess we're kind of talking semantics of the signs themselves, but so the faces of the signs themselves would light as opposed to backlit. When I hear backlit, I mean a halo lit or lighting onto the
Okay.
building from the signs themselves. So the faces of the signs themselves would light.
But
Being facelit, correct. They're
internal, yes.
to be
thank you.
clear, internally illuminated. Yep.
Thank you.
And the color red depicted here in the application, and that's the color, it's constant color.
Yes, sir. That wouldn't change.
Thank you. Any other board questions? Nope. Any concerns from the board? I'm saying this before I ask for the audience. Aaron, you,
No, well, I do have actually one question. I assume on the pylon sign that the coming soon would be removed after the store was open, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
good question. What, John? you-
I'm good.
I'm good.
question?
Okay.
Are there any questions from members of the audience? Nope. You're good with it? Heather, is there anyone online that we should be aware of?
I do have one person online, but they are not raising their hand, so I think we're good.
Well, then this is the easy part. With that, we can close the application.
Yeah, let's just take a minute
And we do need a minute or two just for paperwork.
Gentleman in the back here for an application or for something else? Hmm?
Got it. And you're welcome to have a seat. It'll just be a minute and then we'll call it. We put the slowest typer on the longest application.
I'm gonna write it and then text it. That's the easiest way to do it. I could do these all at once.
I don't see why not.
That's good.
I was thinking of the area one as being a separate one, but I don't think we need to.
Hey, Eric.
No, I think you can do them all in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, an interesting thing, I've been seeing commercials on TV now, which I had never seen before. Just yesterday, I was watching, I go, wow, we're hearing about this and all of a sudden it's live. We're ready. I look forward to it. It's a good catalyst to do my floors. It actually is probably. A curiosity. Why did you choose to put north being the front of the building versus east facing Highland Drive? Yeah, this is not, I'm not changing my opinion on what we're doing here, but I'm just curious.
So Julie Starzinski, Director of Construction and Design at Floor and Decor. So we actually had the same question come up. Floor and Decor is set up very specifically inside the building for operational purposes. And we honestly need a minimum of 225 feet for our entrance side for our store to operate properly. So the east side that faces Highland Drive was too short.
Interesting. Thank you
Yep.
for sharing that.
No worries.
I was looking at going,
You had said 225 feet.
Typically 200 to 225 feet.
Can I ask why?
It's based on our layout. So we have a design gallery that's set up typically on this store will be on the left-hand side, and it's the flow and the racking system and how much space we need in between each aisle. So that's kind of the magic number to make it work properly.
and you're gonna have forklifts and stuff
Mhm.
inside.
Yep. We do overnight delivery to make sure there's no customers in the store because it literally comes off the truck and goes directly to the sales floor.
That is cool.
Any other questions while I'm here?
I don't know, but that was a good answer. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Pretty neat.
I'm ready whenever you are.
With that, we can close this application. It's all you.
Well, thank you. Mr. Chairman, with regards to application 2023-01-02-03-04-05-06 and 07. For an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood and community in relationship to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood, as it is a new store and a new building outside of the actual mall. The variance can be achieved by some other feasible alternative, but the sign layout is what the applicant is requesting for the other stores that they have. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative or physical effect to the physical or environmental conditions, as the signage is directing the customers to pickups and what the store carries. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, but as stated by the applicant, this is the layout that they have at their other stores. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
Second that.
Seconded by Beth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Welcome to the neighborhood. We're glad to have you. Good. With that, our meeting is concluded. It is 28 minutes after 7. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
23 minutes after 7.
23 minutes.
Too late, you already hit the hammer.
No extra pay.
No extra pay.
Okay.
Let's go for the extra 5 minutes.